in Chittagong Hill Tracts in Bangladesh. We want justice. We want our rights. Can we just raise our voice? Justice, justice.
We want justice.
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 Thank you very much. The barbaric attack that has taken place in Khaganchuri and Rangamati, that is the reason we are here together today. And the incident that all started all this chaos and the innocent lives, that was biased and based on zero facts. This is the culmination of decades-long pure ignorance of the call for identification of the indigenous rights and especially rights to the land. I'm proud and inspired to see all my brothers, sisters, and I would like to also thank the leaders from other communities, from the Australian Hindu communities, Garo communities, Nepalese communities, and our Australian fans who have been through with us thick and thin. We have speakers who would focus on narratives around the brutal attack, but I would like to take this opportunity to focus on a few things, like the definition of Upajati or Adivashi, and definition of transmigrant settlers who has been displacing us from our land for a very, very long time. According to the ILA Convention 169, the definition of tribal and indigenous peoples focuses on social and cultural and economic conditions that distinguish us from other sections of the national community. And indigenous on account of their descent from the population, which is distinct from the majority of the population, and also the self-identification of the community compared to the main dominant community. According to the UN definition, the definition of indigenous is have a pre-invasion and pre-colonial societies that developed in their own territories, distinct social, economic, and political systems, distinct language, culture, and beliefs, form non-dominant group of the community, determination to preserve, develop, and transmit knowledge, ancestral knowledge, following our own culture, patterns, social institutions, and legal systems, strong link to the territories and surrounding natural resources. All this define us as an indigenous community. Immediately, we look into the traditional owners of the land. That is the land that has been cultivated by my forefathers for thousands of years, not merely hundreds of years. As some may claim, at least we can look back to the history of Bengali literature, where the oldest Bengali literature is Jumma, which can be dated back to the 10th and 11th century. According to the greatest Bengali Muslim scholar, Dr. Muhammad Salahuddin, he conjectured that Chorjapot can be dated as far back as 7th century. So for people who doesn't know, Chorjapot is a collection of Buddhist poems such as hymns, which is sung for the worship of Lord Buddha. It explains the stringent rules devotees have to follow in carrying out their daily tasks. That puts the Buddhist followers in the religion, especially in Chittagong Hill Tracts, at least 13 years from now. So indigenous people have been living here for thousands of years. If we base our facts based on Chorjapot, which is a very, very long time. For your information, Arab traders who first came to India, they came to India in 8th century, which is after the Chorjapot was written. And Islam came to Bangladesh in 13th century. So if we talk about Adivashi, that clearly defines how long we have been there. Native Americans moved to America from Northeast Asia around 12,000 years ago. Native Mexicans, who also came from Asia 10,000 years ago. Native Finnish, the Finn people, they are estimated to move from Russia to Finland around 100 BC to 180, 100 years before Christ, which is roughly equal to 2,000 years. So compared to 2,000 years versus 1,300 years, which is not a very difference in terms of the time frame. I would like to put forward this question to whoever questioned the origin of Adivashi. How many years does it take to become indigenous? Are thousands of years not enough to be recognized as Adivashi? Another term I would like to focus is the transmigrant settlers who have been settled in displacing our native people from our native land. So we are not against the Bengali people. I want to make it clear. We are not against the main belief. We want our rights, land rights. So when we say settler, it's the illegal transmigrant people who has been settled in our land, evicting Adivashis from their land and making us destitute on our own land. A land that has been cultivated for thousands of years are suddenly no longer our own. We can't cultivate, we can't farm, we can't fish, we can't produce, we can't eat. Suddenly Adivashis are homeless in their own land. Unemployment rate among indigenous peoples are one of the highest. Even when they are employed, they are mostly employed at a very lower level in any job where they cannot make any meaningful impact on the strategic decisions of the development of the community. Most indigenous people live a life of hand to mouth. This is due to lack of infrastructure, education, finance, less focus on community needs, poor planning, poor resource allocation, poor health system. Back in 2017, when my father-in-law had a stroke, he had to take a arduous journey of 4.5 hours to Chittagong just to take the basic CPR. Unfortunately, he didn't make it because of all the poor infrastructure and the road and the unavailability of all the ambulance in the area. This is simply an example an ordinary Adivashi people have to go through every day in their daily life. With the prevailing dire situation, suddenly Adivashis find themselves being displaced from their traditional land. A simple question to ponder here is, if it was your land and one day you suddenly find out it's not yours, how would you think? How would you think about the land when you suddenly find that it's no longer yours and you don't have any employment, you don't have any source of income, and suddenly you have to starve? I also like to draw attention to the uses of religion as a weapon. Without proof, if suddenly someone claims that he or she has defamed religious belief, we should all stop and think. Is an Adivashi really fool enough to do atrocious acts, or is it diplomatic steps by someone to take advantage of the Adivashi people who has been subject of discrimination for his entire life? Is it logical even for an Adivashi who raised his voice for land rights, human rights, and improvement of economic status, or waste his time on trying to defame religious belief? We are trying to gain freedom from army rule in CHT, which we have been trying since Bangladesh became independent country. None of our agenda demands defaming any religious belief, let alone trying. We simply want our rights in our land. We want to live a society where everyone is equal and live harmoniously, helping each other. I'd like to thank everyone for this opportunity. We want justice. We want freedom. Thank you.
We are never included in the constitution of Bangladesh. We always wanted to be included, but we were excluded. So again, to confirm that, free from the chains of oppression, a plea for indigenous rights in Chittagong Hill Tracts. The indigenous people of Chittagong Hill Tracts in Bangladesh have been facing years of discrimination and violence, even to the extent of threats to our very life. I was born into this vein, grew up as one injustice after another befell my community. They even today target and attack my people of the village, indigenous people per se, and fellow indigenous people just because of their indigenous identity. How far can we get out of this chain of oppression and we go on to find a safe and secure home? It is imperative to address these injustices and ensure the protection of the land and the rights of the indigenous people in Chittagong Hill Tracts. So at the end we want to say, we want justice. We want justice. Thank you.
We want justice! We want justice! We want justice! We want justice!